Diane, and Diane's got a fantastic message for us. Thank you, Diane. Over to you, followed by the meditation.
Thank you, Bill. And it is challenging to follow a wonderful song like Faith. She just does do that so well, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And what it brings to us, of course, is lots of energy. She brings that in, and I wanted that in for my talk today. And what I'm talking about, of course, is enthusiasm and imagination. And I called this talk exactly that, enthusiasm and imagination. What a great couple. So looking at these abilities, what Charles Fillmore called our powers, it can be interesting to consider how they contrive together to influence our lives. In fact, how can we use them to transform our lives? Why? Why would we wish to change to do that process of transformation anyway? That question I find paradoxical, because I believe we seek our spiritual selves in our journey of unfolding our lives. The thing is, our spiritual journey calls us forward to new experiences, while our human self calls us forward to comfort, certainty, and security. In the mix, our subconscious runs our life from habit. Those habits are established behaviors developed often from our younger life experiences and our younger selves, those things that we came across in those younger years that influenced often by others around us and not from within. So now we have these long-term habits, ways of being driven by our subconscious. What we live and experience as our human self, and yet a calling from within us that says there is more for us. Okay, so what then is this spiritual power of imagination? In the 12 Powers of Man, Charles Fillmore wrote, when the faculties of mind are understood in their threefold relation, spirit, soul, body, it will be found that every form and shape originated in the imagination. It is through the imagination that the formless takes form. Paul Hasselbeck says it's our ability to visualize, conceptualize, and envision based on our senses, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. We use imagination to visualize everything in our lives. So for instance, we wake up in the morning and we think about getting up, the things we have to do for the day, and breakfast. I'm not sure what you do, but I will sometimes think, oh, yum, I've got some of that in the fridge. I'm going to have that for breakfast. And I start seeing it and feeling it. And so I'll get up and do the things you do first thing in the morning. And then I'll go out into the kitchen and I'll cook some porridge or whatever it is I've suddenly visualized. And it's a very awareness for me now of that visualization that's happening, because I could wake up tomorrow morning and want something completely different. But the habit is there of waking up and thinking about those things. And so when we do this, it's natural. We naturally envisage, we naturally visualize, we naturally imagine our day. Imagination is so much a part of our lives, but it's often coming from our subconscious, keeping us in that certainty and security. And that's the habit. And that's what we imagine. But what happens if we do something different? So here's an idea. Shift to the spiritual imagination. Visualize based on ideas, truths and principles and laws that are divine. From that spiritual from within us. So what happens when we wake up in the morning and we visualize and imagine health in our body? We imagine that every part of us is feeling healthy and we're achieving that health, and we can feel and live that feeling of health, that divine idea of health. So now when we visualize in the morning getting up, we might do something different. We might first start with a glass of water and sit down and meditate. We might consider more in the food that we're eating for the day. We might have quite a different attitude and go for a walk before we eat anything. So this changes our lives, it changes our day. We've imagined something different at the beginning of our day, first thing in the morning as we're waking up. And so we change into something new. This is a new behavior, and it's really simple, and they're simple changes that we can make. However, that visualization, that imagination needs to keep living within us so that we can keep doing this every day, not just one day. And I believe we all understand what the benefit of using enthusiasm and zeal is, and how that can roll out a new behavior in our actions around us. Engaging in enthusiasm into our divine idea of health that we imagined seems to create an extra magic for us to embrace. The connection between imagination and enthusiasm to move us forward to a new behavior and getting us to the new experience, I believe we have all known at least once in our lives. But let's cross to one of my behaviors recently. I've taken to listening to some things on YouTube, various different speakers and wonderful things. And I find that I just come across some wonderful speakers and really reminded and gone back to some others. So I want to talk about some of their perspectives today. Recently, I was listening to different people who've put up recordings of Neville Goddard and his concepts of imagination, which could really blow your mind because he's very out there in talking about a God and the possibility of God. And I believe we're all here this morning because we believe in that possibility. We believe in the possibility of what we can bring. He gets into the idea in this discussion about how we are the living God. We are the divine. We are part of that entity, that essence that is in existence. And it comes from our imagination. He talks quite strongly, really, about how our imagination, he believed, was our actual God essence within us. It's from that that we live our lives. It's from that we create. And we are all creators. He also talks about the idea or the action of imagining is the human experience of what we're doing. And therefore our imagination and our imagining activity is what brings forth those inner things in our lives. He's very strong on the idea that it's promised to us. Talks about if in Matthew, where we're told that if you pray believing, you will receive. And in Mark, where it's even more clear about the statements of believing. Now, how do we believe? How do we do that? And I'm always interested in those processes. What are the processes of transformation? What are the steps that I have to do so that I can know and experience transformation in my life and hopefully for others? And so one of the things that I've just mentioned is that both Charles Fillmore and Neville Goddard talk about everything comes from the imagination. Well, that's the story of creation in the beginning in Genesis. We have those ideas, and the first thing is the word, logos, it is. And that word becomes, and it's the creation steps, the 7 steps in the creative story in Genesis. On the 7th, we rested and we waited, and it manifests into our world. So what else does Neville Goddard say? Well, he has this idea of the law of assumption. And he talks about taking our imagination much, much more into the ideas of every day living from that 4th dimension of the imagination, not our 3-dimensional world that's around us. And so we take time to really imagine and experience and feel what it is we're wanting to bring forth. And I've often talked to you about divine ideas, that they're your divine ideas. And they come to you really in your imagination. That's how you receive those ideas. They come in and sometimes you feel like, where did that come from? Is that really it? It's for you and for you to work through and for your imagination to connect with. And it's a way of connecting. This imagination, this fantastic ability we have, this power, as Charles Fillmore calls it, is a way of connecting us to that inner strength and that inner divine within us and being able to bring that forward. Neville Goddard reminds us that part of that, a large part of that, is this law of assumption, which is really about connecting that imagination to the feelings within us. And we know these feelings are really important. In Unity, we talk about thoughts become things, but when we say that, we really mean thoughts and feelings become things. I always love to go back to the stories of Myrtle Fillmore, which just fascinate me at a time when some of the healing that she experienced wasn't really something that people were aware of or that people really wrote about or talked about. And of course, we know that story. She was in her early 40s, she was unwell, she was on the couch every day, she had people helping her. And the prognosis was that she perhaps wasn't going to be there for much longer, until she went to a talk by a gentleman called E.B. Weeks. And he explained in his talk that we are all born whole and that we do not inherit sickness. In fact, we don't catch it either. And I think that's a really important thing to be aware of, that our body is how we are. It's interesting then to look at how often and for how long Myrtle every day sat in prayer and meditation, we call it, but really in her imagination. And it's easy, it's some of the things I've done since I've learnt so much about this story of hers. To sit there and imagine and visualize different parts of your body and speak to that part and apologize. That's what she did in the beginning. She apologized for the wrong thoughts that she had, for the wrong statements she'd made, and for the wrong beliefs she had about her body and about what was happening in it. And then she began to imagine it healing and well and healthy. And she sat with that imagination, not for 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day in a meditation style prayer, but for hours. And she lived it every day. And she kept imagining herself healthy and well, and her body healing. And in the process of that healing of her body, she stopped laying on the couch. She started moving more. She started getting up each day, feeling better, feeling healthier. She started to change her diet and the food that they ate. I'm not sure if you're aware, but at Unity Village, they at one stage had a full organic orchard and vegetables and things they were growing. Myrtle and then Charles became vegetarians. So along from that imagination that she did about her body healing and becoming healthy, there were different outer activities and changes that she made, some transformations in her life. What also transformed, of course, was her, who she was being and her health and wellness. That's where your imagination can take you, into a new way and a new experience of the outer life. Of course, she lived another 40 so years beyond what was expected, and created and co-founded with other teachers that were out there at that time. And I'm just really pleased that they saw a new way of looking at our teachings of the Bible. And then when you go back and look at those teachings, you can see those stories of how wonderful they are and how Jesus' parables and demonstrations were just exactly that. They were the imagination of health and wellness and well-being, of right thinking and love, unconditional love, to know that we can have those experiences in our life. So I've talked a lot about imagination because I love it, and of course about Myrtle Fillmore. And how can we bring that into our own lives? So I invite you this week, I love setting you a task. I invite you this week to start looking at your outer world and looking around and thinking, well, what am I imagining that's bringing this to me today? What is it that I am thinking about? Am I imagining health and wellness? Am I imagining abundance in our world? Am I imagining peace? What a lovely daily word we had today. That was just wonderful. And thank you, Jeanette, for that reading. So am I imagining peace in my world? Or am I in a world of conflict in my own personal life? And therefore the conflict moves out. One of the other people I've been listening to, again, I don't know, he interests me with his science talk that's such a spiritual attitude. And that's Bruce Lipton. Of course, that's what he was. He was a scientist and he was a teacher at Stanford Medical School and very experienced researcher, etc. And it's listening to him when he talks about those things that he discovered in his experiences doing, tests and experiments and things within his laboratory. And so this week I was listening to him talk about our cells, and I thought, wow, that's like enthusiasm in our body. This is the energy that lives there. So did you know that your cell, each living cell in your body, we have many cells, some of them are dead, some of them are dying, some of them are being replaced, but those living cells within us that are alive and living, they're like little batteries. On the inside of the cell is the negative, and on the outside of the cell is the positive. And each cell in our body has somewhere around about 1.4 volts. And I was fascinated. I went, wow, there's lots of little batteries inside me, all this energy. Here's the thing. Our body's made up of 50 trillion living cells. So that means that basically there is about 70 trillion volts of energy available in our body at any time. And I could just imagine that that is why, for instance, if someone has a heart attack, they come with a machine and give them an electric shock to kick the heart and get it going again. Because really, we are electricity. We are energy at an electricity level, a massive electricity level. So when we take something like our imagination and we add that to the energy of enthusiasm that comes in such an electrifying type way, it's such a feeling in our bodies. You know, when you get excited and you really feel that excitement for something you want to do, it is like that. It's like this magic energy. And so I can just pair these two together and go, when we take that imagination and we pair it into the feeling of enthusiasm, it can't help but contrive to bring ourselves into a new experience that's being called forward from our spiritual selves. Of course, the challenge is understanding some of these things. I know I listened to some of these talks that I'm talking to you about today several days in a row for a few weeks. And then to prepare today, I listened again because some of it is just amazing in its information. How these people, some of them from years ago, and I can't remember, I think Neville Goddard was pre-1950 sort of speaker. And of course, Bruce Lipton, who's a today speaker, 70 years later, talking about things that are similar. And I can really love the idea of learning more and teaching more and talking to you guys about this more. But it's also in my imagination. I don't know if you know, but each time I get asked to do a talk, what happens is it starts to happen in my mind. And sometimes I can just wake up and I'll get an idea for a talk. Or sometimes it can happen on the spur of the moment. And Bill knows this because that's what happened for the title of this talk, was I said to him, I want to talk about imagination. And in moment in the conversation sentence, out came this title for to talk today. And I see myself often speaking with you. I imagine it, and I imagine the excitement that I feel, and being able to pass it on to you. Not that it's the excitement of my feelings, but it's the excitement of the information, of the knowledge, of these things that come into our lives and how they together can work. And the 12 powers are inspiring to talk about at any time. And I know that orange and pale blue don't necessarily go together. I had some trouble finding something to wear today so I could bring forward that ideas of zeal, which is enthusiasm, and the whole imagination colours. But I do think they pair together well, especially if we're living them in our imagination and living them in our heart. So our heart is the desire, the enthusiasm, the zeal of it all. And our imagination is what's possible and the possible divine ideas that are calling us forward. It is a wonderful opportunity to look at and give thanks for all of these previous teachers and all of these people talks. And I am really grateful. I'm not sure if you're aware, Charles Fillmore himself, after watching and observing what happened with his own wife and her healing process, and then people who were coming to the house and asking Myrtle to pray with them and how they were experiencing healing, he also started applying some healing to his own life. He had had an accident about the age of 10 as a young boy, and it impacted one of his legs. And so he had one leg shorter than the other. And the writings say that it took quite a few years, but he actually managed to grow that leg back into a more healthy state. And it grew in length in that process. And so it doesn't matter where it's come from or what that imagination is. It doesn't matter what existed before. What matters is what we're imagining today, what we're enthusiastically taking forward with that, how we're feeling about it all day long during the day. As Neville Goddard says, give no attention to that outer world around us, only to that fourth dimension, that imagination that we're in. I personally believe that's what Jesus was doing in all of his ways he talks. If you read through any of the stories of any of the gospel stories that are there, and he really just was able to see the wholeness in everyone. He never did any healing without asking and checking with that person if that's what they wanted. But in every story, there's that other option of seeing a completely different and successful way of being, a successful way of having a new way of looking at it. You know, there's the story of walking, there's the story of the fisherman looking at a different way and fishing on the other side of the boat and being successful. So there's the abundance stories, the healing stories, the love stories. There are wonderful ones. And I think if we too can connect with our own inner Christ, our own I am, and take that into our imagination and bring it forward with our enthusiasm, then we too can express some of those wonderful stories and experiences in our own lives and in the lives of those around us. Certainly it seems a good idea, and today's daily word on peace seems really good for that one. So I'm going to do a little bit longer meditation with you today, because I think one of the benefits of meditation is being able to practice using our imagination. I'm going to invite you to make a choice around a particular scene in nature that you love to go to. And in our meditation, before we have some silence in it, I'm going to take you on a little journey to walk to and be involved in that particular scene of nature of your own. So if you would like, for me, I might tell you it's the beach, but it's wherever it is for you, whether it's a mountaintop or by a river or wherever that peaceful scene of nature is. And now I'm going to invite you to allow yourself to relax where you are. And just focus on our breathing as we take a lovely deep breath in. And release all tensions from. And another breath in and hold it for a while. As we breathe out now, relaxing and releasing. And one more breath in and hold that for a while. And breathing out, relaxing and releasing all through our body. We know that wonderful feeling of lightness at the top of our head. It starts and it moves down our body, relaxing and releasing as it goes, moving down from the top of our head down through our face and our back of our head and neck, all relaxing now. From the top of the shoulders, we relax our arms, our upper arms, elbows, our lower arms, our wrists, palms and fingers all relax. Moving that light down our backbone, we relax our torso, the upper back and upper chest areas. The solar plexus, midriff, mid-back area now relaxes. And then we relax gently our lower back, our abdomen area, our hips and buttocks all beautifully relaxed. And now our legs, the top of our legs and thighs, our knees and our lower legs, they all relax. As we gently relax our ankles, our feet, the arches of our feet and our toes. Our physical body is beautifully relaxed. Our nervous system is relaxed. And now we're going to imagine taking a short walk to our beautiful scene from nature. And as we just imagine watching our feet, taking our short 10 steps to arrive at our scene in nature, a beautiful, peaceful scene. Gently watching our feet, we count down the steps from 10, 9, 8, relaxing and going deeper now. 7, 6, 5, relaxing even more. 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we find ourselves sitting in our beautiful scene from nature. As we look around, we can see the sand and sea, or we can see the trees and the mountains in the distance. As we look in every direct scene of nature, we imagine it beautiful, peaceful, and calm. As we reach out our hands, we can feel beneath us either the beautiful soft sands or the wonderful soft ground and grass. Maybe you're on a rock and you can feel that beautiful, comfortable rock that you're sitting on as you look out across the movement of water. Gently, the breeze is moving through the winds, through the air and past us, and we can smell that beautiful fresh sea air, that wonderful clean glistening air in the mountain, in the hillside or by the water. We can almost taste that cleanness, that freshness that's in the air. So we feel the warmth of the sun on our body. And we're sitting there in this beautiful, peaceful scene. There's this gentle breeze just brushing over our skin. You can just gently feel that happening around us and across our skin, feeling so comfortable and peaceful. Feeling this wonderful, calm energy around us. We can hear some gentle noises. Sometimes it's the movement of the grass or the trees around us or behind us from the beach, or from the trees around us in the mountains or the hills. Sometimes it's the movement of the water just breaking on the edge of the sea and beach, or that gently running down the creek beside where we're sitting. We can feel that beautiful fresh air coming across our skin as we hear distant birds and noises of the bush or noises of the beach. Experiencing with all of our senses this wonderful scene from nature. We're going to relax now and gently take some time to meditate here in this scene. Meditation allows us to invite in the silence that is the experience with spirit. And so we gently take in time right here, right now, in this beautiful scene, relaxing in the peace, to meditate, inviting the silence. And now we're gently giving thanks to Spirit as we step up from our beautiful scene of nature and watch as we take our steps back to where we physically are. Watching our steps coming back to the room, counting them as we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Coming back more into our physical experience. 5, 6, 7. Gently connecting to all of our physical body. 8, 9, 10. Feeling our fingers and our toes, putting some movement there and reconnecting to all of our physical being. Gently opening our eyes and giving thanks for this time. Amen.
Thank you, Diane. I think we'll keep this space going while we have